chemical fertilizer made from? Natural gas. Anybody notice what the price of natural gas and oil and everything else has done recently? Chemical fertilizers have gone way, way up in price. Organic fertilizers really haven't changed much. So anyway, long discussion, but you can bring those same principles down to your home garden or your home landscape. As we mentioned, to kill weeds, the mixture of orange oil and vinegar is very useful, but remember that this is a vegetation killer. It will kill everything you spray it on. But if you have a yard that turns brown in the fall, whether, Bermuda almost always browns out with the first heavy frost. St. Augustine, if it gets cold enough, will brown out, but most years St. Augustine stays green. So you can't go back through and just broad spectrum spray everything like you can in a Bermuda yard. But if you got Bermuda, once it turns brown, if you got little green weeds sprouting up, make your mix of a gallon of vinegar, 2 ounces of orange oil, a little squirt of dish soap. Just go through and spray everything. You won't hurt your Bermuda, but you'll kill all those little green weeds that are sprouting up, and it works extremely effectively.
Yes. Would the zoysia fall into the Bermuda category?
Yeah, zoysia usually browns out with the first heavy frost. Okay. Now, other things that happen in the fall, especially in lawns, especially in chemically fertilized lawns and things, are fungus diseases. The principal of these is one which is called brown patch fungus, rhizoctonia. And it is characterized by having the grass turn first of all yellow and then brown. We're not seeing much brown patch yet, because we don't see a lot of brown patch until we start having cool nights down in the 50s. But the characteristic of brown patch fungus, you go out, you've got this grass that appears to be dying, you pull up on the grass blade, the runner stays down, but the grass blade pulls up. Look at the base of the blade, it's turning kind of watery and yellow to brown. That is brown patch fungus. It rarely kills all your grass. It'll kill about 80% of it, but you'll notice there's still green grass mixed in with it, which will normally come back the next spring. But in an organic yard, you usually don't see brown patch, but a year like this, you may even see some of it. And it's most common in St. Augustine, but it can also show up in zoysia. It can also show up in Bermuda. The worst St. Augustine for getting brown patch is Raleigh. The worst zoysia for getting brown patch is Jammer. But if you have brown patch fungus show up, it's as simple as treating with whole ground cornmeal or treating with one of the garlic products, like the garlic GP is here somewhere. But the way that this works, remember, brown patch is a fungus. It's a bad fungus. When you put down whole ground cornmeal, there is a beneficial fungus called trichoderma, which grows on the whole ground cornmeal. This trichoderma fungus actually eats up, actually kills, destroys the damaging. It's useful for a lot of other things too. It'll take care of black spot on roses. If you mix it with water and let it stand for a while and then spray the water, it'll control mildew. It'll control just about all fungus diseases. If you ever have a problem with cornmeal fungus or athlete's foot, this stuff will control that. But that's how the cornmeal works. If you have brown patch, the application rate to get rid of it is 20 pounds per 1,000 square feet. If you had it last year and you just want to be sure you don't get it this year, the preventative application rate is 15 pounds per 1,000 square feet. Yes, ma'am?
I was just going to ask, can you use too much of that?
No. There's nothing harmful about it. You may have a few birds come in and eat a bunch of it, but don't worry, they leave plenty of it behind. The difference in the so-called whole ground cornmeal and what you may buy at the grocery store, they call enriched cornmeal. Whole ground cornmeal is ground up corn, intact, ground up kernels. The so-called enriched cornmeal that you buy at the grocery store, they polish the outer edge off of the corn kernel. They actually take away 14 essential nutrients, they put 10 of them back, and they call it enriched. Maybe the new math is different than I was brought up with, but I still come out 4 nutrients short. The whole ground cornmeal is a better product. You might ask what they do with the part that they polish off the corn when they make, so they're so-called enriched stuff. Well, they usually put that in animal feeds. Once again, the wonders of our society. Take all the good stuff away and feed it to the animals and give the people the starchy stuff that's left over. It is also sometimes sold as horticultural cornmeal. We normally don't think it's worth the extra price, but if you're looking for the best cornmeal in the world for stopping fungus problems, it would be the horticultural cornmeal, because that's just the pure product where they ground all the stuff off the outer portion of the corn and put it in a bag. That's what horticultural cornmeal is. But for the money though, just good whole ground cornmeal is probably all you really need to look for.
Can you eat it?
Sure.
You eat it?
Sure, absolutely. But check it for weevils. Because, you know, if it's been sitting around long, it may have them. If you ever get a big bag and you don't use all of it, put a few bay leaves in with it, and you won't get the weevils. That's a huge bay tree, you know, kind of right up toward the front of the nursery. Normally when we package this up, we put a bay leaf or two in it just to keep the weevils out. But the whole ground cornmeal has probably been sitting around a warehouse somewhere, and I'm not going to tell you won't have a few little weevils in it. Not going to hurt you, but not especially appetizing.
Will
Yes,
it
ma'am.
kill the weevils if you put it in after you know it's already
It'll run
got
them out. It'll drive them
run
out. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
And so you just broadcast this cornmeal, and then you don't have to work it in,
No.
but water it in?
Watering it will make it less attractive to the birds,
Oh,
and it will kind of activate it and get the trichoderma growing more quickly. But it's not going to burn or cause any problem. Water when it's convenient for you. Other questions about cornmeal? It's great stuff. A&M, of course, denies that it works, but that's because they have a lot of their research is supported by some chemical companies that make Balaton and Manab and a few other things. But the funny thing is, you know who discovered that cornmeal was a good fungicide? Texas A&M. Up at their Stephenville location, the peanut farmers found that it stopped some horrible fungus problems that, you know, hit peanuts. They found they could just put cornmeal in the soil and they never had the problems anymore. But nowadays they've forgotten that they invented it and start denying that it works all the time. But it works extremely well. As far as the using it for toenail fungus and athlete's foot, that's nothing new. I have a niece who's a doctor. Rita told me that for generations that's been what people use to take care of cornmeal or take care of toenail fungus. So it's not something brand new, something that we just invented. Some of the wiser people in the world that don't have access to the $400 of prescription medication that screws up your liver have known all along that this was probably a better way to go. Just a couple of other things. Just about everybody is seeing plenty of snails and slugs this time of year with all the rain. Please don't use bug bait. Bug bait is so toxic, a teaspoon of it will kill a small dog. We don't want to be using that. The product called Sluggo, I don't know if we have any of it out here. This is Sluggo Plus. The Sluggo is something that will kill snails and slugs. It's an iron phosphate bait which works extremely well. If you're fighting pill bugs in addition to snails and slugs, Sluggo won't do much against them. So they added another component to the Sluggo, added some spinosad, which kills the pill bugs. They call it Sluggo Plus. Unfortunately, it raised the price about 30%. So if you don't have pill bugs, just buy the regular Sluggo. But if you're looking for something that does pill bugs and snails and slugs, but does it safely, won't hurt your pets or your kids, this is stuff that works very well. Yes, sir?
Is that what is eating all of my